Congratulate Bob and his guys for getting it done. They're looking like they're shaping up for a special season, so that's great. Anytime any one of us can try to get to postseason and do some things special, it's just great. You know, we all wear the same name across our chest, so congratulations to Bob, Murph, and all his coaches and his players. Again, we had a tough week last week. We got to really, continue to grind and move forward. This week's not going to be any easier. Wednesday, we've got Nichols here, and then from there we'll move on into the Classic, which is always an honor and a privilege to play in that thing in Houston. We've got 3 very good teams that we'll have to deal with. Last week we got close in some games, but we couldn't finish. We got to continue to learn how to finish. Got to continue to pitch and play defense and try to continue to come on as hitters 1 through 9 and try to score more runs. I thought in the first game this weekend, we had a critical error. We got to make sure that if you're not scoring a lot of runs at that time, you got to keep the critical errors down. That led to a 3-run inning, actually 4, but we want to pitch against the 3-run inning, and we gave up 1 right there, and then we were kind of staked to it for the rest of the game. So, again, we got to just keep the score down right now. It is what it is, and it's all we can do for right now. Our hitters are working hard to continue to come and grow and try to score some runs, so that's our goal. Wednesday, we'll have Nichols come in. They've gotten off to a tough start from there, but they're well coached. We'll have to be ready for that game, and then we'll travel Thursday, practice at 4 Thursday at Minute Maid, get used to the surface there, going back from turf here back to dirt and grass for 3 days. And then we'll have 3 very tough opponents in Mississippi State and Vanderbilt and Kentucky. So Mississippi State and Vanderbilt and Kentucky, all SEC teams, and Kentucky swings the bat really well. So we've got a lot of things to deal with. Hogan's probably not going to throw this weekend. He's still not ready to go, we don't think. So even though he's still day-to-day, we don't think he's going to be able to go. So we'll back him out this weekend for safety's sake. We just don't want that thing to turn into a tear. So we're going to meet today after practice and try to see what starter we want to go out tomorrow versus who needs to come on in to the weekend with us in Houston. So that's what we'll kind of do after practice today. So, again, I think when you're in these situations, it's all you can do is up your conviction and continue to work and try to get our hitters all on the same page and try to get some guys going and try to score some runs. So I'll open up the floor for questions you might have.
With Hogan, you said oblique, is that what it is, or is there a little bit more to it?
No, it's just when you have something that's in a twisting area like that, and you have something that the guy's such a violent thrower, from 90 to 95 miles an hour. That's anything in this area for baseball, especially pitchers, is just a tough thing because you have to let it rest, and you don't want to turn it into something more than it is, and that means put the ball down. So not only do you have to put the ball down, but then you have to pick it back up and get him ready again once he can pick the ball back up. And so you want to do 2 things with him. You don't want to hurt the team. If it turns into a tear, you not only hurt him, but you also hurt the team. So he wants to be back. We want him back. We're a very good team with him on the mound. But the trouble is he also has a third option you have to watch out for, is that, they're all going to have a career, but he also is a guy that's lining up to go in the Major League Baseball draft. So the last thing you need to do is, send him out there not fully healed, and all of a sudden he tears a UCL or turns into a full-blown some type of arm injury versus an oblique. So we're going to stay very cautious with him for all of those reasons and make sure we save him from him. He wants to go. We all want him to go, and we actually need him where we're at right now. But we want to now try to shoot for the following week and then try to hopefully get him ready to line him back up for conference when we start conference weekend.
Catcher, you talked about some extended period of time, you have the open roster spot. Have you guys decided on bringing somebody up? Is it cold?
Not yet. We're just going to keep it open right now. We are developing. We have a freshman that caught in high school, Blake Facher. So he's been blocking and framing and getting ready in case something would happen. Our third catcher that we actually had as a freshman also, in Brady Jones, has a slap tear in his shoulder. So that's what's kept him off the roster or allowed us to take him off the roster because he was injured. So it's safer to keep the roster just open right now because if we need pitching help, we do have another walk-on pitcher that we could bring on. If it's the catching help beyond Facher, then we also have Nick Hanks that we could bring on. So we're going to keep it open right now, but we are working Facher because his roster spot's already counting against us, and he's caught in high school before.
Do you change your strategy knowing that until the bats start get going, are you a little bit more aggressive some other places?
Well, I just think you have to sometimes, do some unconventional things. We might have to squeeze more, I mean, maybe hit and run a little bit more, try to move some guys around, the lineup maybe a little bit just to try to do some things and hopefully they can overcome it and some guys can get going. That's the whole key to it. I think hitting is nothing but once it catches fire, everybody I think will start to pick up. And but yeah, you'll have to do some things that you might have to normally maybe not do to be able to score runs and move some guys around the lineup, which we'll probably do. Move some things around, Wednesday and going into the weekend. And I think LaHair is going to help us. He had the concussion coming out of the weekend series, and that's why we couldn't play him. Then we caught a lefty when he got off a concussion protocol in Game 2, and so we were able to put him back out there in Game 3. So I think he's going to be the one that's going to really help hopefully get us going.
What's the most important thing to get out of the Nichols game tomorrow, especially going into a 3-game weekend series against all SEC?
Well, we really want to just get better and feel better about ourselves as hitters. I mean, that's the big thing is we want to try to score some runs. We want to try to, get off of, 2 to 3 hits a game. The other night we did climb up in hits. So that's the biggest thing I think we need to do is try to continue to do what we've been doing, continue to pitch, continue to play defense, and then try to get our guys going 1 through 9. I think that's the biggest key is trying to get them to get going, to feel better about themselves headed into a weekend where you're going to see good quality pitching.
And I know sometimes, I guess kind of when it rains, it pours, and there won't be as much success. You have a controversial play and whatnot. Is there any conversation that you have to have with the guys of maybe you change your own momentum? You can't let some of the outside things affect you?
Well, the big thing you want to do is you don't want somebody else's perception to become your reality. That can happen to you in life too. You look at Eric Thomas. The guy was abandoned, lived in a box in Chicago, right? I mean, he didn't let somebody else's perception of him become his reality. So everybody else's perception of him basically said, "You're broke, you're no good, you've been abandoned, you're worthless." And you're living in a box in Chicago. Well, he's a multimillionaire today, gets $25,000 for a speaking engagement. His children now have gone to Harvard and everything else. But he didn't let somebody else's perception become his reality. And that happens to us in life a lot. We let other people's perception become our reality. Yeah, I'm 2-5. Somebody probably doesn't think that's good. I understand all that. We're not swinging the bat real well. I know the outside world can say we can't hit, but I don't have to let somebody else's perception become my reality. I don't, and neither do they. You got to have extreme ownership when this happens. You as I told them when I came out after the ejection, I can't come out and tell them the umpires did anything. I mean, the umpires didn't do anything. We had runners at second and third. You got to have extreme ownership when you get into these situations. And you got to own up to where you are, and you can't start blaming anything. You have to have extreme ownership, and then from there, you have to up your conviction and not lower it. See, Eric Thomas had a chance to lower his conviction, but he upped it. And that's where people go wrong, is when they get in bad situations, they settle. We can't settle. Can't settle. I don't care if you look on paper and we're hitting 174 with runners in scoring position. I could care less what the numbers are. I could care less we're 2-5, and I could care less whatever your perception is of me or the team. I don't have to have your perception become my reality. I just don't. For us to succeed in these situations, or when you watch the greats succeed in these situations, they up their conviction. They don't lower their dream because of their reality. They just don't. I mean, he had a chance in that box to say, man, I'm a loser, I'm a bum, and he didn't. So we can't get to that point. We have to have extreme ownership. We have to up our conviction and not let the outside world's perception become our reality.
What's it like for the guys working with a big leaguer out there? And I'm sorry, this is my mistake. Who's Eric Thomas? Eric Thomas,
yeah. He's a motivational speaker.
Okay.
You can look him up under ET. His nickname's the Hip Hop Preacher. He's an African American guy that got abandoned. His mama actually turned him over to his grandmother. She was raising 10 or 11 people already, and she couldn't keep him anymore, so he had to go out on his own. So he was in a box, lived in a box in Chicago in an abandoned building, and he's a multi-millionaire today. He's got his PhD from Michigan State. His children have gone on to Harvard. And again, it's a great story of if you follow him, about he didn't let the outside world tell him, I'm a bum, or, this is it for him. He actually says in his speeches that he believes it was an advantage to eat out of dumpsters, because he felt that the wealthy guy that had made it was going to sleep in till 10 every day. And he couldn't sleep in till 10. So he ate out of dumpsters and everything else to survive. And today we tried to hire him to come here and speak to the athletes. We can't afford him. And that guy was in a box, Chicago. And we can't afford him to come here to speak to us. And so the difference maker is what he didn't do is he just didn't let the outside world tell him where he belongs. And that's what happens in this. So if I come out after that game and I start blaming everything on those umpires to our players, it gives them a way out. It gives them a blame. It lets them blame somebody else, and we can't do that. I mean, we have to look at us. But these times are tough because you have to keep the blinders on the mule. I mean, you show that mule that big old field, he don't want to plow it. But you put some blinders on him, you show him one row, you let him just do one row and then do the next row, pretty soon he'll plow that whole field. But what you got to watch out in life is you take your blinders off and you go, wow, man, that field's too big. We can't take our blinders off. We got to keep them down, and you got to keep plowing. Like I tell them all the time, this is going to be hard. I warned them at the beginning of the year. I mean, I warned them, this is not going to be easy. This is not going to be pretty. We're going to get bruised up and beat up, and it's not going to be pretty. And then you throw on your two best leaders, with Gunner and Handsome. They're in the dugout. Take your two best leaders off the field. They're in the dugout. And then from there, we missing starts with Hogan, and we down to one catcher again when we thought we had three. So you got so much low-hanging fruit right now that they can grab onto. The umpire, Gunner, Handsome. I mean, they got so much low-hanging fruit, man. They could survive the rest of the year on that fruit. But I have to take that away from them. We cannot grab low-hanging fruit, and that's why I said the other night at the end of the game, I'm the leader. Falls on me. 2-5, not good enough. It's mediocre. I got to get it in gear. Extreme ownership. So if I went around blaming something on an umpire or injuries, who cares? Nobody wants to listen about your injuries. I mean, you're 2-5. So we've got to work. So we want to try to hopefully get out of Wednesday. I've got to sit out 2 games, so I got to sit out Wednesday and Friday. But we already coach with no codependency, so they don't need me. I mean, good teams. The team that Bob has right now, he could probably walk into the locker room, and they can probably draw some plays up and go get it. When you got that kind of team, that team that won 58 games with me, the Omaha team, all our coaches probably could have walked off the field and let them draw up some plays, go out there and play. They play with no codependency. So, I do have to sit out Wednesday, and I do have to sit out Friday, and that's a rule. So, we'll abide by it and move forward.
And what about working with LaCroix?
Back to LaCroix.
Right.
Yes. The greatest thing about him is you get to see a big leaguer work. That's a nice thing about it. The hitters watching his protocol, how he starts his BP, hitting the opposite field, working around to where it's time to pull the ball instead of just jumping in the batting cages and just starting to pull the ball. Listening to his stories, moving around, our catchers watching him block and frame and doing the things that he does to try to get himself ready. It's been really good. I know our players have enjoyed it in watching him practice every day, and I think that's a big gift for us. Anytime one of the pro guys, BT was here earlier working out with us before he left, and Thurman's here right now working out with him, and Marks and Guillory are here working out with them. So I think anytime you can have minor leaguers or a big leaguer come in and work with them and just let that rub off on them, I think that's really good.
Have you seen the at-bats getting better? Have you seen guys taking different approaches from your vantage point in the dugout? Is it a matter of time to where maybe those balls start falling, or are you liking at least the approaches you're seeing at the plate? Yeah,
I think our approach has been getting better. Coach and them keep a thing called QABs, quality at bats, and we want them to be at 500, not the batting average, but the quality at bat. Because you got to watch out in hitting, because a guy can hit 4 balls on the nose and go 0 for 4. And so if you allow him to believe that he had a bad day, when you had all 4 of those at-bats were quality at-bats, they might have moved a runner. One of them might have been a good sac fly. A guy could have drove a ball to the wall and got caught. So our QABs have gone up, which is good. At first they were not good, but now they're going up. So I think if we can just collectively, keep growing 1 through 9 and continue to, what I call, take every at-bat personal. Joe Torre said that when Paul O'Neill came to the plate, it was Armageddon, for him. And so I think Daniel LaHare's approach, if you watch him play every day, he's got that kind of approach. And I think hopefully getting him in the lineup and let him stay in there with us for a while. He got in, he made a big difference in the Texas game that we won. Then he had to eventually come out because of the concussion, but now he's better. So I think really, hopefully he can give us some energy and some life and some look, because every at-bat to him is personal. He's similar to Jace. Jace Conrad, every at-bat Jace had was personal. And I think when you get 9 guys that hit like that, I think you can overcome a poor swing or some poor mechanics. A boxer can have all the greatest technique in the world, but when he gets punched in the jaw, what's he going to do now? What's the technique going to do for him if he's going to go back and sit back in the corner in the arena? So I think that the big key we got to do is continue to try to make each at bat personal for each player, because I think those are the best players. I think good pitchers pitch, it's personal to them. And I think good hitters hit because it's personal to them. And that's what I like about LaHare, is I think his at-bats are personal. And hopefully that can rub off and we can get that spread down through our lineup.
What's the rule? I was just going to say, what's the rule causing you to miss 2 ball games?
If they tell you not to leave the field after your injection. If you don't leave the field after your ejection, they call it excessive arguing. Then it's an automatic 2-game suspension.
That's an NCAA, right?
That's an NCAA rule. Mm-hmm.
You were talking about moving hitters up and down.
Uh-huh.
Like when Castles went down
Mm-hmm.
that 1 game.
Mm-hmm.
Was that just a matter of just take a little bit of pressure off them, then all of a sudden
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to quite think as much?
Exactly. I think that's what we're going to have to do is just move some guys around, because there's stress levels at every place. It's kind of just like pitching. There's stress levels according to whether you're a starter or a closer or whatever. And I think we just have to keep moving guys around. And some of it might be unconventional. You know, LaHare might play lefties and righties instead of just righties. I mean, there's gonna have to be. I don't think we can just do this thing conventionally. I think we might have to do some things unconventional if we have to get this done. But yeah, we took him down because he had always been hitting in a high stress level up in the 3-hole. So some of that, you might see some of that. You know, we got to just keep moving some guys around until hopefully we can get comfortable. And who knows, maybe we end up, you know, playing more than 9 guys. Sometimes that can happen. We'd like to settle into a lineup if we can, but at this point in time, I don't think we at that point.
Coach, it seems like the guys over the first couple of weeks have swung on a lot of the pitches early in the count. Do you like the aggressiveness, or would you like to see them be like a little bit more selectively aggressive?
Well, I like controlled aggressiveness. I think if you look at the 58-win team, they won 43 the year before, and I really believe the reason they won more the second year than the first year is if you watch them, our walks went way up from the 43-win team. When we first came in and put in a real aggressive approach, we swung at a lot of pitches, so our walks were down. Right now, we don't walk much, okay? So I think that has to come up, and I think that has to come up with controlled aggressiveness. And I think what happens a lot of time is fear and anxiety makes you swing early. And so we got to get rid of the fear and anxiety, and we got to make sure that we can get to controlled aggression. In the inning that I got ejected on, we got runners at second and third, no outs, and we swing it all breaking balls in the dirt. That's not controlled aggressiveness. It's not controlled, it's uncontrolled. And uncontrolled aggressiveness is not good, whether it's coming from an over-aggressive guy or a guy that's got fear and anxiety. You know, and I think that's what we have to lower. I think we've got to get down to getting some controlled aggressiveness. And what we preach is controlled aggressiveness so that you don't have no early, easy, weak outs. We don't mind a line out. We don't mind a hard out on a first swing. What we don't like is to see a guy make a soft early out. To me, there's no excuse for that. No excuse for that at all. And then you got to protect your pitching staff. You know, you got a freshman out there throws 25 pitches, which is a stress inning. Big league pitchers average anywhere from 11 to 15 pitches an inning. So we have a thing that we teach our pitchers in their pitchers meetings is that any pitch above 15 is not good. I mean, it just isn't. You want to get out of every inning anywhere from 11 to 15 pitches. And so as a hitting group, you want to push that pitcher's pitch count above 15 because nothing really good happens after the 15th pitch. You can track it. The problem we have is a lot of these starters are getting out on us in 7 and 8 and 9 pitches. We've got to do a better job there. So you've got a pitcher, a freshman, who's battling for us on a Sunday on his first start, and he has a 25-pitch stress inning, right? And to close out the inning is the leadoff hitter. So you got to know as hitters that your pitcher's coming back out to face 2, 3, 4. He just had a 25-pitch stress inning, and we're going to turn him back around in 9 pitches. And that's when they broke him.
So does that mean you just want your hitters to be a little bit smarter in those type of situations?
Control their aggressiveness, and we almost might have to, you know, as I said earlier, some unconventional things is put them on forced takes where we try to control their tempo for them if they can. So, but I've called pitches for 30 years, and the toughest people to call pitches against is the controlled aggressor. That 58-win team we had, that's a tough team to call pitches against because they went from the year being so over-aggressive to being controlled aggressive. That is hard to deal with. It's just hard to deal with. We call using him against him. Like I went out against our freshman. They pinch hit a guy one time, and the guy was a big-bodied guy, and so a left-hander. And so I went out there and I told him, I said, look at the size of that guy over there. He's not coming here to bunt. He's not coming here to drag to get his way on. You can see what his body type is. So what we want to do is we want to use his aggression against him. So take this two seam with his changeup, take a little bit off of it, and push it down on him, because he's going to come out as an aggressor. And so he comes out, he makes the perfect pitch, pushes that changeup down on him and away, and he rolls over on it into a two-hopper to first base. We have to understand that we get in positions like the other day with runners at second and third, we have to control the energy of the crowd. Yeah, I was ejected, the crowd was up, our team was up, the hitters jumped in there, I'm sure they were up. Now that's the worst thing you possibly want in that situation with first base open, because what the pitcher's going to do, he's going to use them against them. He'll throw breakers in the dirt, until he loads first base. Now, once we can get first base occupied with maybe McKinnon right there, then we can maybe start to maybe take away his fastball again. But he's not going to throw a fastball until somebody occupies first base. That's just the way it's going to be. And that's what he started doing. He started throwing breaking balls, sliders in the dirt, and we never occupied first base. So those are the things that we have to learn how to do. That's a learned trained response. I mean, I appreciate you getting up there and you all fired up and you want to, kill the pitcher, but sometimes that's not the best state of mind to be in. You got to learn how to throttle back a little right there and let him come to you instead of you jumping to him. So those are the things we're kind of continuing to work through, preaching to them about, trying to control their aggressiveness, but we're okay with them swinging at the first pitch. The difference is we can't have early, easy outs. That's the difference.